They were the faces and force behind one of the most powerful brands in teen and tween marketing. And now, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, the 23-year-old co-presidents of their multi-million-dollar entertainment company, have gone from being the faces on the merchandise to the inspired brains behind it, elevating them from Walmart to Bergdorf Goodman's. The former child stars are the unlikely fashion designers who have not one, but two labels outshining many better-known, more established brands. Being embraced by some of the fashion industry's most discerning arbiters of style is no small feat, especially with a collection that, to the uninformed, could be dismissed as a celebrity clothing line. But without any formal design training, Mary, Kate, and Ashley have given their style-obsessed critics precisely what they're after: a line of elegant, understated, and modern clothing. Their professional lives began remarkably at only 9 months of age, sharing the role of the sassy toddler Michelle Tanner on the hit series Full House. After the series ended, the Olsens began to heavily merchandise their image, targeting the style-savvy tween and teen demographic with everything from clothing and cosmetics to day planners and dolls.
We're 15 and we're very involved. We go through all the processes of designing and picking out the themes of the line, whether it's gonna be floral or graffiti, whatever.
But when they turned 18, the sisters took full ownership of their company and made a pointed decision to tackle their globally recognized brand with a more tailored approach.
When we turned 18 and kind of took control of our company, we weren't aware of a lot of things. A lot of the things that were out there, so we cut back on a lot of things, and now we're just really sticking to the things that we make us happy. Things that are fun for us to do.
She's gonna cry.
Having reached the status of style icons, the business-minded twins' foray into fashion was a natural progression.
I think it really started when we were younger and we'd have to have adult clothes fit to us. Ever since then, I think it's really been a huge part of our lives.
While students at NYU, Mary-Kate pursued an internship with Vanity Fair photographer Annie Leibovitz, and Ashley with designer Zach Posen.
It was definitely a learning experience. I did everything from PR and packaging and sending out to pinning and doing patterns, and it was really fun.
Yeah. Hi, can I just ask you what you thought of the show? Did you like it?
They're not talking, okay? Despite being notoriously camera shy and preferring to remain out of the spotlight, their distinct senses of style continue to hold the world's fascination and impact the wardrobes of millions of fans. The essence of their creative vision was offered up in book form. Influence cites the sources of the girls' inspiration, designers like John Galliano and Karl Lagerfeld, and earned them more credibility in the design world. Their 2-year-old high-end label, The Row, began as Ashley's challenge to design the perfect t-shirt, and has since earned the team a coveted spot on the Council of Fashion Designers of America, alongside some of the industry's top designers like Diane von Furstenberg and Michael Kors.
We've always loved supporting the CFDAs, but this year it's kind of brought a whole new meaning to my sister and I.
Elizabeth and James, the hipper, less expensive line, was named after their siblings, which raises an interesting point. Unlike other celebrity clothing lines that surface on a seemingly daily basis, the Olsens have deliberately detached themselves from the brand by keeping their name off the label, so customers aren't necessarily aware of who's behind it. As Mary-Kate and Ashley get older and their audience expands upward, they've gone from being the product to being the producers of the product. Sophisticated garments that attract the same clientele who have the means to buy Chanel or Prada. And that is a more accurate reflection of who the Olsen women have become. It's sort of a really neat starting point for this, because, you know, we're talking about the past and how it's hard sometimes to let go of images maybe that we have of one another and even ourselves. Yet you guys have managed to just keep on going and really forging ahead in such an inspiring way, really showing the world, what you can do, and you're, not just one-dimensional talents, and you really have taken risks. How conscious was that? Was that something that you both made your minds up to, we're going to show?
It was very conscious. I think we really took the time to kind of step back and figure out what our strengths were, and to trust each other and our instincts, and take a risk, like you said. And it's a lot of strategy. And
when we were 18, it probably happened then when we decided to move to New York and go to NYU and go to school, and kind of we took that time to really figure out, what are our next steps going to be. But we had to kind of step away from everything we had done and, really think about what we want to do moving forward. And all these projects kind of slowly started coming up.
It's incredible how much of the fashion world has embraced you, and rightly so, delightfully so. Why fashion for you, though? Obviously, as costume, and as actors, that was an important aspect of self-expression. But why did you think that would be a good business to go into?
I don't know. It's something that has always been a part of our lives since we were very little.
Even when we were acting, it was all about the wardrobe and the costume changes, and that was kind of also how we
fit and quality, and how to take that to the next level,
and how we really gained a lot of our fans at the time was really through the way we were dressing and the way our hairstyles were, and we were very much involved in that and creating our own style. And then we had a business with Walmart for some years, but it was a mass business, so we learned a lot about that type of business, which is completely different than contemporary or designer. But it was a good jumping off point, and it just seemed like the right thing to do, and it felt natural, felt really natural.
That's something also that's very obvious with the way you dress. I mean, and you've been really celebrated for that. You're a kind of an irreverent approach to style, an effortless way of dressing. Is that something that you really, though, do have to think about, or does it honestly just come that naturally?
I think, it's sort of like brushing your teeth in the morning. We don't really think about it, you just sort of do it. And but we also understand beauty and sort of the history of fashion, and the playfulness of it.
You've been called some of the most powerful players in the fashion world. In 2004, I think Time magazine called you that. I know how you feel about those titles. What do you think makes someone powerful in the world of fashion?
I think those are just words, I think you just have to really stay grounded. I think maybe that's powerful.
And stay true to yourself, and kind of whatever, you look at Diane von Furstenberg, she's been true to herself the whole time, and she still has an incredible brand to this day. After Miuccia Prada, she still has a very powerful brand and an image, and I think they've always stayed true to themselves and their consumers as well.
You've certainly had a lot of time to learn about yourselves, and being in the public eye the way you have. How crazy-making has that been for you when you're really trying to keep your noses to the grindstone and being creative and putting out, great product? How hard is it with that distraction?
I think, when we grew up, I think it all kind of, that whole media, all that attention really started, I guess, when we were 15, 16.
It was much different than it is today. It was much different
then, and I think learning early on that you really just couldn't pay attention to the noise, and that would really be the biggest distraction, paying attention to, whatever else is getting written, and, all the noise. It's just it's the most distracting thing, and I think we don't pay attention to it. We don't read it. We don't really.
Also, another distraction. Sort of like every everyday life, it would just be, you can be your biggest distraction, or, you know, and if you're grounded and you sort of have people around you that you trust and, you know, have a great collaborative experience with, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. You've certainly, speaking of collaborations, had some great collaborative experiences. To work with a brilliant design mind like Robert Lee Morris on some of this great jewelry that's part of the line now. How did that work? I mean, do you come in with your own ideas and then just start riffing?
Well, it sort of starts from the clothing, and that, you know, and then from the clothing it trickles down into the rest of
the accessories,
yeah, the shoes,
jewelry, and the shoes. It's been great, and he really kind of also pushed us to get more hands-on physically with you know, actually just making the jewelry and teaching us how to put together certain things and the process. And it's just, you know, it's an experience that, you know, we would never have unless, you know, it was for Elizabeth and James. And
yeah, what an education. It's incredible. You've been muses to many designers, and, you know, I know that people, you know, are watching you all the time and certainly being inspired in many different ways. Who inspires you? I mean, who are your muses?
I think we look to people like Miuccia Prada and Diane von Furstenberg.
And probably more about the way that they go about their lines and running their businesses.
And how they always, you know, stay innovative, but also at the same time, you know, true to themselves and, you know, true to their customers.
Chanel, saw you at the Chanel show, and I know Carl obviously has a soft spot for you guys. What do you think of him, and what have you gleaned from him?
He's just such an icon. I mean, he's a genius. He's also an artist, and I don't really know what to say about him except he's done a very great job. You know, yeah, I mean, he's amazing. Sort of the king, and you know, I don't know really what to say. When we interviewed him for the book, I didn't know what to say either. Then, you know,
I've seen you so often at fashion shows, and, you know, you can't get near for the craziness, and I just always wonder what goes through your mind when you're sitting there in the front row, and, you know, the paparazzi are going nuts, and, you know, you just sort of got to keep grounded, as you say. What goes through your mind? Because obviously, I
turn white, and my palms start sweating, my legs start shaking.
I think you just sort of black out for 10 minutes, yeah, and then it's over.
There's nothing about it that's normal or natural or anything that's, for me, very fun about that whole experience. I think, you know, what's really fun is the 2 minutes of the show, and you know, and that's why, you know, we don't go to very many based on the other side, but, you know, we'll show up for something that we know is going to be an incredible show.
The balance between your clothing lines, because it's not just, you know, Elizabeth and James, and of course you've got the Row, which is, you know, very up there and been incredibly well received as well. How do you balance the other, you know, artistic projects that that you have on the back boiler?
Yeah, we have a crazy schedule. I mean, we really do. It's right now with, you know, just Elizabeth and James in the Row. You know, we're definitely overwhelmed as it is, so we're kind of just trying to get a handle on these two businesses and trying to make them as steady as possible until we really take on something else.
But you have really proved that you can sort of do it all, maybe not all simultaneously, but it's not like you've got to really totally retreat from one thing, you know?
No, I mean, I think that's been a really great thing that Ashley and I have been able to balance. But it's hard work. I mean, it's every day, it's all day. I mean, it's a job, you know, and, you know, we're just lucky that our hard work is paying off.
Well, someone once said the hardest thing about being a success is remaining a success, you know, and I obviously think that you must be driven to a certain degree to just keep almost reinventing yourselves.
And I think, you know, we both really enjoy building brands. I mean, from a very young age, you know, with Mary-Kate and Ashley brand and everything that was kind of incorporated into that brand, to the Elizabeth and James brand, and also with the Row, I think we really enjoy
and understand the process.
And really try to look for a certain void in the marketplace and then kind of tackle it from, you know, an interesting new perspective.
And how symbiotic is this relationship of yours creatively? I mean, you really are feeding off one another, I would imagine.
Yeah, every day.
That's how we work.
That's how
we get by.
Is one more of sort of, you know, the art person and the other one more the commerce person, or is it a
We're
combo?
both very creative.
On the day, and I think it's sort of, you know, I don't know, we feed off of each other.
We're both very creative, but yet we're very business-minded as well. So, you know, we sometimes take different routes to kind of get to this, you know, base to the same center. Yeah. But we're normally always saying the same thing, just in different ways.
How would you say you've changed intrinsically over the years? I mean, what's the biggest lesson, perhaps, that you've learned from growing up in the spotlight?
I've become a lot more introverted, that's for sure. And I think that's just, you know, because of, you know, needing to keep, you know, certain things to yourself when you're working so much and you're dealing with so many people on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's kind of, at the end of the day, you want to kind of retreat back to what would, you know, what's comfortable.
I would say that and discipline, you know, because it does take a lot of discipline. And I mean, we've always been disciplined. I mean, just the way we grew up, and we've always worked. But I think as you get older, it's a different kind of discipline. It's not as short term and day by day, but then you end up looking at the bigger picture and creating goals. And I think that's something that's been fun and challenging, and you know, will continue to change as, you know, the years go by.
It's been intimated that you finally are taking control. I mean, well, obviously you're grown-ups now and you're in charge. Was there a time when you felt, you know, really powerless or victimized, or perhaps not as in control?
Well, I mean, growing up in general and sort of the business that we were in, it wasn't that we weren't in control, but I don't think, I don't really know how to explain it.
We never really felt powerless because, you know, we got to make certain decisions along the way. I think it was more that we knew that turning 17, turning 18, we knew that in order to really move on and move forward with our lives and our interests, we needed to take full control of the company, because we knew that that was going to be, you know, we had to be in complete control in order to get the best, hopefully, end result.
Yeah, well, it certainly seems to have worked out most wonderfully. Like, so far, so good. Just talking for a minute about people's sensibility towards fashion now. We're going through a bit of a hiccup here. Hopefully, you know, things are recovering, but there seems to be a lot of excess in the world. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. We're being offered so many options. What's your take on that? I think I read somewhere that you never throw out any of your clothes, or you
We haven't. I mean, I still wear clothes from high school and elementary school. I still have stuff, yeah. I don't know. I think people are really starting to kind of look at, you know, quality over quantity, and kind of more timeless pieces. And I mean, from a shopping perspective,
but you still enjoy consuming in that way, obviously.
You know, I honestly have kind of not, I mean, I don't really shop that much anymore. I don't know.
Well, now that you have your own lines to draw from, that
It's
makes
hard because you start
you know,
you
picking
go
apart
through
everything.
You know, you'll go to a store and go through the racks, and you kind of know, you know, what machine it was made, you know, from, and where it was made and the quality. And
you almost know too much. Yeah, what an education, again, that it's been. In terms of what makes great style in your minds, to sum it up, because people see you as such style icons.
For me, it's kind of whatever I feel comfortable and sexy and that, that I'm not being worn by anything, for me.
I think it's about feeling comfortable, I think it's really unfair for us to judge others of the way they feel comfortable dressing. But, I also like the whole fairy tale process of it, the make-believe.
Clothes have a great transformational quality, obviously. They're sort of good for the soul. What do they do for you personally?
For me, it's, you'll always have those pieces that you'll always go back to. And I think that, to have those great basics and then to be able to mix with new things, but to have those, it's almost like a blanket that you used to grow up with, something that you can always kind of go back to know that you feel comfortable in.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, it is. It is. It depends on the day.
Well, I guess anything you're passionate about, you're going to... Looking back now, on this incredible ride that you two have been on together, and obviously there must have been moments when you just looked at one another and thought, what is this all about? Where are we going? If you had the chance to grow up in a different way or in a different kind of reality, would you opt for that, or has it been pretty incredible?
I mean, I think you can sort of do that with anything. And I think we've done a really great job of staying here and now and, moving forward in our lives today and kind of the opportunities that are in front of us.
And we still feel very young. I mean, we're 23 years old, and sometimes we feel extremely old because we've been working for 23 years. But, there's hopefully a long life ahead of us, and we know that, we just want to keep on learning and growing and evolving and kind of just stay true to ourselves.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see what the next 23 years is going to bring. Obviously, if you really, could project, or maybe sometimes you do in your fantasy life, where do you see it going?
I see ourselves doing an event later, literally, that's,
Yeah.
You'll see us with a lot of wrinkles and a lot of Botox and bigger clothes, bigger jewelry, with the same hair.
Well, I can't wait. I'm sure it's going to look great on you, as everything always does. Thanks so much. It's just been a joy seeing you guys up close and personal like this, and we'll hope to see you out there in the trenches a whole lot more. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, thanks so much. Really so sweet. Thank you so much. It was really nice.
Last week, which honestly I love. Then the accessories start to pile on. We get the scarves, long coats, multiple shirts first, the sunglasses, their paparazzi armor of choice, creeping in just before they started NYU. In late 2004, they start to contrast their homeless chic with a high-value designer bag, often the Balenciaga city bag, and then in 2005, we get the 1-2 punch of cowboy boots and Starbucks cups, often at the same time. This is when Mary-Kate's homeless chic is officially complete, and the New York Times writes a think piece on her style, Mary-Kate, fashion star. Mary-Kate's style, boho chic, was actually very symbolic of the time and even helped to create a new term, bobo, a mix of boho and bimbo, created by sociologist David Brooks, whose book Bobos in Paradise described a group of wealthy consumers who bashed materialism while embracing all manners of luxury. Mary-Kate certainly was an innovator of bobo style, But she certainly wasn't the only one, as across the pond, Kate Moss, rock chick supermodel who was about to blow her career sky high with Cocaine Kate, was leading the British pack with her understated festival-inspired looks. Young girls and tabloids were obsessed with the Olsen look, watching in awe as the floppy hats, huge sunglasses, dust-catcher shirts, and street-sweeping cable-knit cardigans became more and more layered and ripped, until Mary-Kate's style became, as one magazine put it, a kind of homeless masquerade, one that was accented by subtle luxuries such as a cashmere muffler, a Balenciaga city bag, and of course, her signature carry-out latte from Starbucks. On the other hand, although Ashley's university-era style definitely lived in the same world as her twin, it definitely was much more refined and laid back. While Mary-Kate's bags were stained, dirty, and gum-ridden, Ashley opted for clean and white. When Mary-Kate wore oversized hoodies and sweats, Ashley wore generous cashmere sweaters. And when Mary-Kate wore torn, spotted slips, Ashley opted for frilly white sundresses. However, both of the twins did have a massive hand in shaping some of the decade's most defining trends. The Alexander McQueen skull scarf, that was Mary-Kate. She and Ashley also helped position Balenciaga's city bag as one of the first it bags. Many of their other NYU staples also became mega decade-defining trends, such as massive sunglasses, leggings worn under skirts and dresses, extra-long scarves, turquoise jewelry, and busted-up jeans. One of the main reasons the Olsen style took on so quickly was because it was so different and refreshing to the leading trends of the time. There was the edgy rock chick look with not a lot of clothes, brought about by the likes of Xtina and Britney, and then the tacky, glammed-up heiress look inspired by Paris Hilton. When the Olsen twins came around with their boho chic look, people were yearning for something new, although that didn't mean they escaped the weekly worst dress list and were actually featured quite often. Bobo style started to make its way towards young Hollywood, and some of the trendiest it girls of the time, Chloe Sevigny, Sienna Miller, and Kirsten Dunst, were all looking for ways they could show off their inner homeless person. Stylish young women used to wear Gucci or Prada head to toe. Today, they are more apt to be seen at supermarkets or parties, toting a beat-up Chloe bag, their eyes shaded by enormous high-priced Laura Biagiotti sunglasses, the faint suggestion of opulence hidden beneath chador-like layers of cashmere and ankle-length peasant skirt. Looking back on her visionary fashion, Mary-Kate has tried to explain that all of her stylistic choices did actually have basic logistical reasoning behind it, such as the giant Starbucks cup. When I was younger, on the weekends, my mom would make us pancakes with her initials on them and then a tiny cup of coffee. I remember at 10 sneaking my own coffee and pouring a ton of sugar in and going up to the playroom and drinking it. And the layers? I was just trying to stay warm. I was from LA and layering made sense to me. I was cold. I put whatever was on the floor when I woke up. The Olsen style would evolve over the years to become more refined and high fashion, and Mary-Kate would have another iconic era, this time as the bag lady from Los Angeles. But before we get there, we need to get through the rest of NYU. Mary-Kate and Ashley carry on exploring New York's nightlife, while also working hard at their studies at the same time. Ashley interns with designer Zach Posen, Mary-Kate with photography Annie Leibovitz. The gossip columns were filled with stories of the twins' dating life, focused mainly on Mary-Kate, who had just started dating Greek shipping heir Stavros Niarchos III in early 2005, a relationship that would eventually blow up in her face. The paparazzi were also especially fixated on Mary-Kate, not just because she was one half of the Olsen twins, but because all of the tabloids were wanting pictures they could use on their weekly Mary-Kate eating disorder reports. When Mary-Kate's eating disorder first came out in July 2004, people were shocked to find out that the Olsen twins weren't these perfectly innocent, naive little girls, and that they actually had problems. So ever since, the tabloids kept tabs on where Mary-Kate was in her recovery. Luckily, Mary-Kate did have a team supporting her in both New York and Los Angeles that included a supervising psychiatrist, nutritionist, and a $1,000 a day eating counselor. If you're wondering